Go ahead and think about the last family movie night that you had. You, your significant other, the kids are all settling in for the night. You've got your comfy clothes on. Nice hot pizza just got delivered. And the latest movie that you're all really excited to see just came out on Netflix. So you're getting ready to watch it. And suddenly you hear a sound coming from the backyard, some sort of like big bang or thud. That's kind of weird. So you go out to investigate. And coming out of your shed in the backyard, you see someone that you don't recognize. It's kind of dark out, so you can't really make out who it is. And they stare at you and they run for it. They're gone. You can't catch them. But of course, the next thing you're going to do is check out what they were up to. You go to your shed and you usually just store stuff for summer activities in there. Springtime, so you haven't been in the shed for quite a while, several months. You go in and you find that it looks like someone's been living there. There's blankets and some clothes and empty cans from like food. You look a little bit more and you find photos of you and your family, of friends that you've had over for dinner. Of course, you report this to the police and come to find out after further investigation that this person has been living there for 9 months, watching you, your family, who your friends are, what types of activities you like to do, learning everything about you. Well, this is the reality of what's happening in many of our businesses today. It takes an average of 9 months or longer to identify that a hacker is in your business, watching your movements, learning everything they can to deploy the perfect attack. And when they do attack, the average cost is over $4.5 million. This is the real threat every single one of our businesses is facing. So, welcome to our podcast on cybersecurity for business leaders like you. We're going to bring you actionable steps that you can take right now in your business to make sure you have a good, effective cybersecurity program. So, come with me on this journey out of the dark. So, welcome to Out of the Dark. I'm your host, Niles Benghauser. And today we're going to do things a little bit differently. If you've seen our previous podcasts, we've had a few different guests on, business leaders in their respective fields, getting a feel for what they're doing to implement cybersecurity, compliance, how they're keeping up with technology. But today, this is going to be the first in a mini series on specific things that you can do to develop a comprehensive cybersecurity program in your organization. So we're going to be talking risk management. That's today's specific topic, but we're going to be talking, of course, about AI as well, how that's affecting things on the landscape and what you can do in your business to protect against AI threats, cybersecurity culture, and how you can create that in your organization, incident response, what to do when you get hit with an attack, like we described earlier. All these big topics, we're going to cover those in a lot of detail each time and give you specific steps that you can take so that your organization can be better protected and you have some tangible things that you can take action on. So, cybersecurity risk management. That's what we're going to talk about today. And first, let's talk about what is cybersecurity risk management. Well, it's similar to other forms of risk management. You think about protecting your business from fires, floods, other natural disasters. We can think about physical security on your business. You might have locks and badge systems and things like that. But then you also have things such as insurance, ways to kind of mitigate some of those threats. It doesn't necessarily stop something from happening, but insurance can make it a lot easier to deal with. And other forms of disaster preparedness. All of these things are helping us mitigate risks and deal and plan with risks that face our business. So, cybersecurity risk management is in a similar vein where we're looking to assess what our cybersecurity risk is, mitigate those risks, and then monitor to make sure things are working the way we want. You can kind of think of it similar to any sort of physical security that you have. Let's say you have a warehouse full of product that you sell, or perhaps supplies. But, if you manufacture goods, you got to keep all the raw materials somewhere, and that's worth a lot of money. So, of course, you want to protect it. One of the first measures you might take is putting a fence around the property, and you have a gate, so you have to have the code to get in, or perhaps a badge, and that helps keep only authorized people entering the premises, getting access to those valuable materials. But is that all you do? Well, most likely you have some other measures in place to monitor the situation and actually make sure that the gate and the fence and all of those other things that you've done, making sure that those are actually effective. So, a common thing to do is put in an alarm system. So, if that gets tripped, you're alerted immediately. Maybe you have a video surveillance system as well that helps you see what actually happens should the alarm go off. But there's things that you put in place beyond stopping someone from getting in, but you also monitor it to make sure that if they get around that, you still know about it and you can respond appropriately. So cybersecurity, again, that it's very similar to these other measures that we take. The trouble I see with a lot of people I talk to, though, is that it's intangible. You can't touch cybersecurity, right? Or you can't. Um, Typically, you don't see someone hacking into your system. It just happens, right? And so it can be a little bit difficult for us to wrap our heads around what it really means to get hacked, what could happen as a result. Unlike, say, a fire where you see your building burning down. You see goods getting destroyed right in front of your eyes. And you don't have that with cybersecurity. Along those lines, one of the big things that hits the headlines all the time is the financial impact of a cyber attack. As I mentioned earlier, $4.5 million dollars and climbing is the average cost of a cyber attack. And I'll kind of walk you through why it is so expensive and how it adds up so quickly. Well, first, when you get hit, you're going to have an amount of downtime. The average downtime is actually 21 days. So, what would you do if you could not operate your business for 21 days? I want you to really think about that. You can't collect money. You can't pay your vendors. You can't deliver goods and services. Would you come back from that? Maybe. Some businesses are able to survive that. Some businesses are not. And that, especially for small and micro-sized businesses, 21 days of downtime when the owner is living paycheck to paycheck, customer to customer, that'll put you out of business a lot of the time. So we have that financial impact, the downtime impact. Uh, the other things that add to that, though, is while you're down and you're not making money, you still have to pay your employees. So that still has to be accounted for somehow. uh, Depending on the level of the breach. And when we're talking about these $1 million breaches, this definitely plays a part, but you have to notify everyone that has been affected by the breach. So if you have a customer database having name, phone number, email address, you have to then report that to the state or another regulatory body, depending on your jurisdiction, your industry type. Now, when you report that, you're probably going to want to hire a breach coach to help you through it. A breach coach is a specialized attorney that walks you through all the steps of the process to get back up and running, to notify affected individuals, to write the letter when you notify them so that it makes you sound as good as possible, instead of just, oh, yeah, we're terrible. We messed up. We breached your data. Um, and so all of these different things add up, and that's not even talking about the cost of hiring IT specialist to do forensics investigations, to get you back up and running. Uh, I mean, there's a lot more that goes on besides, say, a ransomware attack where they demand payment to release your files. There's a lot of fallout that makes the financial impact huge. But outside of the financial impact, what about your reputation? What about regulatory fines? What about getting back up and running? Now, we talked about the financial impact of getting back up and running, but are your procedures, your policies, your day-to-day operations, are they going to come back up like they were before? Or are you going to have additional troubles with that? These are all things that you want to kind of think about when it comes to cybersecurity. It's not simply something that your IT department can take care of and you're good to go, you're protected, and you don't need to think about it again. These are things that affect your bottom line. They affect the company at the top, the owner, the executives, middle management. Uh, all of these people are involved in both the prevention and the fallout when it comes to cybersecurity. On top of this, we see the complexity, the sophistication, and the frequency of these attacks increasing year over year, exponentially. So, what do we do? Well, let's get into it. There's a few key components. Um, and actually, I want to tell you a quick story before we get into those components, because as I mentioned, it's hard to wrap our heads around this. So I was talking to a contractor the other day, and they do work with like remodels and things like that. And they're like, "Well, we're looking for a new IT provider, but not really sure how cybersecurity plays a part, or why that would matter to us. I don't think we're really a good fit as far as that is concerned." I'm like, "All right, well, what makes you say that?" They're like, "Well, we don't have any sensitive data. We're a contractor. We just we do tile work and things like that." I'm like, okay. So I asked them, "What is the single largest invoice that you pay to your suppliers? Like, how many dollars is that?" And they're like, "Oh, well, we're buying materials in bulk, so it's probably $100,000 invoices that we pay a couple times a year." I'm like, okay. So if we think back to that 9-month average where a hacker's in your system for 9 months, let's assume that happens. Okay, so they're in your email system. They're watching every transaction that you do, who your clients are, who your vendors are, how you pay, how you receive money. And what they're going to do is they're going to wait until you have a large $100,000 order from your supplier, and they're going to intercept that email. And they're going to send back an email pretending to be the supplier saying, "Hey, we have a new way for you to pay us. Please follow these instructions to pay us for this invoice." Next thing you know, the bookkeeper has wired $100,000 off to the hacker instead of the supplier, and you can't get that money back. Talk to your banker. I promise you that I okay, I'm making up this percentage, but it is high. Most of the time, 99% of the time, I'll say wire fraud, that money's gone. That's it. And a banker will back me up on that. So what are you going to do when you wire $100,000, $50,000, whatever that may look like for your business? How is that going to affect you? So what do we do about it? First, we need to figure out what you actually want to protect. What is it that you want to protect? Different businesses are going to have different things that are valuable to them. There's client data. If you're in a medical industry, you have patient data, financial data, perhaps, depending on your business. But think about, what are your organization's crown jewels? What are the things that make you you? What intellectual property do you have? Trade secrets, things like that. And this helps us kind of get into the head of these hackers. I hear a lot of the time, "Well, we don't really have anything that they'd want to steal." I don't have, we don't do a lot of, we don't move a lot of money. We don't make a lot of money. Okay. Well, whatever money you have, the hacker will take. But it's not just about the money. They're looking for any in, not just necessarily to make money off of you, but at a minimum, you have trust with your clients. That's extremely valuable to a hacker because the hacker knows if they can get in to your system and then use your systems like your email to contact all of your clients and use that trust that you've built up with your clients to then scam them out of money. That's a big payday. Even a very small nonprofit, for example, is going to have hundreds or thousands of contacts that the scammer can reach out to and uh, steal money from. And it looks like it came from you. Common attack vectors are going to include things like phishing attacks to your email. And I bring up email so much because that is, research has shown that that is the number one way that hackers get in. They get in through your email first, and then from there, it can spread. Sometimes all they need is your email. Other times they want to get further into other systems. Once we've identified our key assets, and actually, I want to show you this handout, and we have this available at centurycto.com/out of the dark. And at the end, I'll spell that out so that make sure you get that correct. For video viewers, we'll go ahead and put that on the screen now and later so that you can get that. But we've got a free download. It's a worksheet to help you do these things that we're going to talk about today. So first, assessing your risk and finding what those crown jewels in your organization are. So the first thing that we've got on here is a table that you can fill out where you can list all of your different assets and how critical they are to your organization's operations. So we keep it pretty simple, just rank it. Is it low, medium, high, or critical? Critical being you absolutely cannot be without this system at all, to low being, well, we could probably survive quite a while, if not forever, without it. It's a nice to have. It helps us be more efficient, whatever it might be. And once you rank those, that's going to help you figure out, okay, what do we need to protect first? So once you have an asset inventory, you know what we're going to protect. Well, now we need to look at what types of threats are facing those assets. As an example, you probably have a lot of information that is vital to the business in your accounting software. Now, having the accounting software up and running may or may not be important to the daily operation of your business, depending on how you run things. Now, if you take payment directly through your accounting software, that's probably pretty important to keep up and running. But if you actually collect payment through a different software, then maybe your accounting software can be down a couple of days. Maybe that's not a big deal, but it depends on your business. Again, maybe you do invoicing from your accounting system every single day and you need that running. Or maybe you do invoicing once a month and today is the third, and yeah, you could be without it for a couple weeks. So that's kind of the mindset you want to be in, is how important is the system in general to my business? And then what's the likelihood that an attack against it will happen? And so what you'll do next, and again, this is the next worksheet on our or the next fillable on our worksheet, is the risk assessment. So what we want to think about is the different ways that a hacker could attack these systems that we outlined in the first step. You're going to want to collaborate with your IT team because obviously this gets a little bit more technical, but it's really important as a business leader in your organization that you understand how these things could impact the business, what type of reputational damage it could do, all of the things that we've been talking about today. So you're going to list out the different attacks. So to your email system, you might list, well, the threat of a phishing attack is a potential. And then you want to list two things that come out of that. And it's on the worksheet here for you. But one is the impact. If a hacker were to exploit this risk or this weakness, what type of impact would it have on our operations? So again, we've outlined, different ways that you can rank that. So low, moderate, or high. But then on top of the impact, if it were to be exploited, what's the likelihood that it is going to get exploited? Is this something that is so obscure and um, difficult to execute that it's just really unlikely? Maybe if it were to happen, it would have a huge impact to your business, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily very likely to happen. By assessing these things, you're going to be able to see how you can actually prioritize fixing these things. And you're going to start to have a clearer picture of how to approach things. And that's why we recommend doing these things first. If you don't know what you're protecting and what you're protecting against, how would you start? A lot of times we talk to businesses who the very first thing they say is, "Hey, we need antivirus and we need someone to fix our computers when they break." Those are important. Yes, I mean you do need those things. I agree. You need a way to back up your systems, sure. But what next? Every business is a little bit different. Every business has slightly different needs. Uh, I think uh, it's really troubling when I see cookie cutter approaches to cybersecurity. There are standard things, sure. There are things that almost everyone needs. There are things that everyone needs. But we have to really dig in and look at how a business operates, how what types of assets you have, what your risk tolerance is. Some people are more comfortable with certain risks than others. But the important thing is to be aware that those risks are there. So we've identified our key assets. We've assessed what kind of risks face those assets. And we're going to quantify those as well. So what you want to do is put a number to it. If this, if this, if our email is hacked, it's going to cost us $1,000 a day, $10,000 a day, whatever that might look like. Put a number to it. Then, when you're discussing it as a board of directors or your leadership team, you can see the actual impact of these things not being dealt with. Next, we need to look at what to do with those. Now, when it comes to risk management of any type, there's different things that you can do with your risk. You can mitigate it, put in place things to make it less likely to happen or minimize the impact of that risk. You can transfer the risk. Now, that this is where insurance comes in. Getting insurance is a form of transferring risk, particularly financial risk. But instead of paying out of pocket, you're making someone else pay. You can avoid a risk if you're planning a trip and you find out you're planning a trip to Florida. You're going to have a good time on the beach and go to Disneyland and or Disney World and do all these things, right? But then you find out that there's going to be a hurricane coming in. That's a risk of getting stuck in that and something terrible happening. Avoidance is probably the best choice in that, right? You don't have to go now. Let's plan another time to do that. So that'd be avoiding the risk altogether. Now, the flip side, maybe you find out that the hurricane is actually not going to hit Florida. There's going to be some bad weather, but it's not really uh, supposed to be a big deal. So perhaps instead you decide, okay, we're going to accept this risk. And you go anyway. You take some, maybe a couple precautions here to mitigate it, but ultimately you're accepting the risk. And that's what you can do in your business. You have four options: mitigate, transfer, avoid, or accept. Now, I suppose there is a fifth option. It's a terrible one. You could ignore it. You could pretend it's not there. But if you're listening or watching this podcast today, chances are that's not your mindset. You're not one to ignore the risk. Um, I'm not going to count that one. But lastly, we want to monitor and review. As we talked about with a surveillance system, making sure that physical barriers and physical risk mitigation is being effective. Well, we need to monitor and review our um, risk management practices as well. And this is something we can do once a year, once every 6 months. Again, your unique business, you need to decide what you're comfortable with, but talk it out with the IT team, with the leadership team, figure out what's best for you. Commit to a culture of cybersecurity. What this means is from the top, everyone, all the way down to staff level, and even with contractors and vendors outside the organization, you're going to show we are committed to good cybersecurity practices. And even if we make mistakes, we're going to keep going. We're going to do our best, and we're going to pursue um, the knowledge that it takes to make sure that we have good cybersecurity in place. Because not only does it protect your organization, it protects your clients, it protects your reputation, it protects your vendors. Everyone benefits when we take cybersecurity seriously and make sure that it's a part of our culture through and through. Does your CEO keep a sticky note under his keyboard with his password? Do you see uh, managers, just setting simple passwords for their employees and be like, "Oh no, no, don't change it. I need to know what your password is." These are things that our employees see, and they'll follow suit. If it's okay to keep sticky note with the password under our keyboard, then okay, it's okay. But if it's not, then we need to lead with that. And we actually had a good discussion with James Haight a couple weeks ago about that too. So I'd encourage you to look at that and how he has shown from the top that cybersecurity is important in his business and how it has helped him actually. It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier, when he leads from the top with a good cybersecurity mindset. It makes it easy for the employees to do the same. I already mentioned collaborate with your IT team, but I'll bring it up again. This is not something your IT team can just do for you. This is something that has to be collaborative. They're going to help with the technical aspects, and if you have a CTO or something, they'll probably head up this project. Um, but every member of leadership at the end of the day has a piece of the pie here, and it's something each one of us can help with. Now, here's a rapid fire list of things that we're going to cover in future episodes. But we want to think about having clear roles and responsibilities, specific individuals or roles within the organization that are responsible for actually carrying out your cybersecurity plan. Allocate resources. This means time and money. So you want to allocate people, money, time to implementing these things. Don't let it be put on the back burner for 2, 3, 4 years. Clear reporting. Make sure that all the members of the team are reporting back to leadership on the progress of implementing a cybersecurity program. Incident response planning. So, this one we're going to dive into a lot, but what do you do if the worst comes to worst? If the things that you implemented to mitigate the cyber risk were not effective, you still need to have a plan on what to do then. Third party risk management. So, when it's outside your organization, outside of your control, what are you doing about that risk? And then lastly, this is a big one. And being here today is a fantastic way to do this, but stay informed. Make sure you're keeping up with the latest cybersecurity trends that affect your organization, your industry, compliance, regulations, things like that. Staying informed is a very powerful tool, especially when it's paired with action. So, cybersecurity is a huge growing threat. It's facing all of our businesses, even the micro businesses, small businesses. And it's not just about, oh, my computers are down. We've seen how it can affect our reputation, it affects our finances, and it affects all of the people that we do business with as well, our vendors, our clients, etc. Cybersecurity starts at the top. If you lead by example and showing that you have a good cybersecurity mindset, then everyone else will follow suit. And it takes a little bit of planning. I know that as business leaders, we have a lot to think about. And when there's something like this that can be hard to wrap our heads around, it can be even harder. But if you put in the time and effort to plan, you're going to be so much better off. One, preventing cyber attacks from happening sometimes. But then, even when the cyber attack gets through and hits your business, you are going to deal with it so much more confidently and get through it with fewer scratches. And if done right, your business will stay operating. So, what I want you to do is go to sentrycto.com/out of the dark. That's sentrycto.com/out of the dark. We're going to have a link where you can get our risk assessment worksheet so that you can get started on your journey. And then next time, we're going to be diving into the topic of AI and how that affects our cybersecurity program. So start today with assessing your risk, and we'll see you next time on Out of the Dark.